Aislinn, welcome back to Collection Cutdown. Today's video is another classic, All That Heaven Allows. It's directed by Douglas Sirk and stars Jane Wyman and Rock Hudson. Now, for those who don't know, Douglas Sirk is a director who manages to marry art and melodrama. I don't think he was particularly well respected when he was actually working, but as you can see from the fact that this is a Criterion Collection DVD, his work has gained a lot of respect in the last few decades. I remember loving this film the first time I saw it, and I've only seen it twice, and both in quite quick succession, I think. But I remember bits and pieces of it, but not the whole thing, so I'm going to be very interested to watch this one again and revisit it, particularly knowing more about Douglas Sirk and his work. I've talked a little bit on this channel about how I was really keen to get a good film education, and Douglas Sirk was one of those directors that I was really keen to try. Particularly because he made women's pictures, but in a really high art kind of way, and I really like that idea, and I don't think that they're two mutually exclusive things. So for that reason, I've actually seen quite a few Douglas Sirk movies and have really liked them all to varying degrees. This one's another melodrama, so if I cry again like I did with An Affair to Remember, please forgive me. I'm going to jump into this one and see you all on the other side. All That Heaven Allows is about a widow in her late 30s, early 40s, played by Jane Wyman, who falls in love with her landscape gardener, played by Rock Hudson. Her social peers don't approve, and there is much conflict about this. As I said in the opening, I love Douglas Sirk movies, and I actually think that this one may be his best. His mise-en-scène is brilliant. The use of colour, of framing, of shadows and reflections. It's just a joy to watch, truly. There's this recurring visual motif. Early on in the film, Kay talks to her daughter about being a widow and not necessarily be ready to be on the shelf. Kay, the daughter, talks about how in ancient cultures sometimes the widow was actually walled away with her husband and left to die because she was considered a possession too, and says, "Oh, thank goodness we don't do that anymore." And Carrie, the heroine, replies, "Oh, don't we?" or something to that effect. And that starts off one of the best visual motifs in the film, where Carrie is constantly framed as a reflection to show how boxed in and framed in she is to this life and this society that she's in as a widow, and the expectations that people have placed on her. The film is in Technicolor, so it has that slightly artificial look to it, which I think would have been quite normal for audiences in 1955 when this was released, but to us adds an artificiality to it which actually works beautifully with the film's theme. Sirk uses the artificiality to his advantage, particularly in the opening shot, which is actually of the Universal backlot, but is made to look like a traditional American town. And that heightened colour and the slight model look to it is perfect for his themes about how superficial Carrie's class is and the lives they lead. It's not just the colour but also the composition of many of the shots in the film. For example, there is one beautiful shot where he's proposing to her. The two of them are in his beautiful, warm, firelit room, and they're standing in front of this massive window where it's cold and snowy outside, and it's a perfect visual representation of her choice in that moment, that she could stay with him with warmth and love, or she could go back out into the cold without him, into this sort of chilly, awful world that is the world that she's known up until this point. Clearly Douglas Sirk brings out the film nerd in me, so I'm sorry, but I really do just love the art of his movies. Much of the film rests on Jane Wyman's performance, and she carries the film beautifully. Her hesitations, her temptations, everything is just so beautifully portrayed, even without words. Rock Hudson was in his prime here. He is a very beautiful man and he wears a lot of flannel, which I enjoy. He projects this kind of earthy masculinity, which is so at odds to the superficial cattiness of the other people in the film that are in her social class, and you can really see why she would fall for him. Steadfastness and self-assuredness, and how all of that would have been so attractive to her, but also the fact that he still sees her as a woman, even though he's actually younger than her. I think the age difference between them is actually meant to be greater than the actor's age difference. At the time of filming, Rock Hudson was 30 and Jane Wyman was 38, but I do think she's meant to be portraying somebody a little bit older. Everyone else in her class has put her on the shelf, and she's actually proposed to by a man who wants a comfortable wife, and it's clear that people now expect her to lead this dull, sexless existence, whereas Rock Hudson still sees her as a desirable woman and wants to give her passion and love, which is something that nobody expects her to want or need. So you really do understand their connection. My one complaint about this film, as much as I adore it, I would love just a little bit more in those early scenes of the two of them falling in love, because they do leap quite quickly into love and talks of marriage, and I would love just maybe one or two more scenes of their connection and really building that relationship before, because frankly they go through a lot of angst after they get engaged. That's where the main conflict comes from. So to really have a stronger foundation would have made me root for them even more through all that hardship. For me, this is weepy classic melodrama at its best, because not only is it a great melodrama, but it's also a beautiful film and it's beautifully made. The quality of the direction is, as you can probably tell, I love it. And it also features heavily social commentary. And I think that that's really Douglas Sirk's true strength, is that he isn't afraid to delve into those issues. And there's a lot of actual controversy about him as a director on whether he meant his films to be pure melodramas beautifully made, or whether there was a sense of irony and satire to them, and that's still a debate that's ongoing and open to viewers' interpretation. Frankly, for me, I don't think that melodrama and art are mutually exclusive, so I fall in the camp of thinking that he was fully intending to just make a great melodrama and just do it really well. And I'm really glad that we get the social commentary too about how class and material things don't really matter. Both visually and in the plot of the film itself, you really do see that she is trapped by these material possessions and by people's opinions of her. That famous shot, she's framed by this TV that she had been resisting getting for so long, and that her children had bought for her, and it's truly the last nail in her coffin as a widow that now she has TV for company, and the salesman talking about that. It's a very famous shot and it's very beautiful, and you can see why, because it is a perfect visual metaphor for what she's going through. And you don't get that level of art and direction in most melodramas, so you can sort of see why they aren't taken seriously as a genre. But Douglas Sirk elevated them to a whole new level. Whether you think this is a beautifully made melodrama or you think it's a subversive indictment of small-town America, why not both? But it is a fabulous film, and I'm definitely keeping this one on my shelf. I went through a lot of effort to get it. Criterion Collection DVDs are hard to come by here, and I had to order it specially, and it was worth every penny and every minute, because I do adore this film. This one is definitely staying on my keeper shelf. Next up is a Hallmark movie called All Things Valentine. No guarantees on quality with this one, not up to the level of Douglas Sirk, but it may still be fun, so we will see that one next time. In the meantime, if you would like to subscribe or like this video, please consider doing so, and comment. Tell me about your film nerd appreciation of Douglas Sirk and whether you think that he's a genius or not. I'll see you for All Things Valentine's next time, but in the meantime, bye for now and happy watching.
Mm-hmm.